The skies burnt orange, with a citadel enclosed in a mighty glass dome, shining under the twin suns. Beyond that, the mountains go on forever, slopes of deep red grass, cruppered with snow. Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about Gridlock, written by Russell T Davies and directed by Richard Clarke in his first Doctor Who story. Now, this story is based around the idea of traffic jams, a topic, that doesn't seem to lead itself into sci-fi, but you'd be kind of surprised at how many mundane situations like this get adapted for sci-fi format. This is also the conclusion of the New Earth trilogy, starting with The End of the World and then continuing on from New Earth. So this is the conclusion to that, as we see a character return from those two stories. I'll get onto that when we get into the story. Now, I'm just going to jump straight ahead to the to rounding up the opinions. If you go on the internet, you go on to what the mainstream audience think, you would find that this is a very unpopular story. That this story is might be considered by many as the first weak entry in Series 3. One of the low points, one of the more weaker, not bad, but mainly forgettable. I'm here to tell you that Gridlock is one of the most weirdest stories you will ever watch. It's so bizarre. And it's one of those stories where actually when I first watched it growing up, when it aired on the TV, I was like, yeah, it's okay. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, but nothing I'll remember. But now, I personally, I really like this story. I know that might sound like blasphemy to some people. What? You like Gridlock? But yeah, I am one of the few individuals on planet Earth, or Sol, who likes Gridlock. Don't blame me. I will get into my points throughout the adventure. But I just want to state that this story is probably the most one of the most weirdest Doctor Who stories in the history of the show. Maybe Big Finish have done easily way more weirder stuff. But in terms of televised stories, specifically if we want to talk about new series, but I think we can class and Classic Who as well. In my opinion, this is one of the most, some of the creative decisions are questionable, shall we say? I don't want to say bad, but just okay, what? That kind of a thing. I also think this story leads into some of David Tennant's best performance as the 10th Doctor. Some of his lines, especially when he's discussing Gallifrey, is some of the most best work that he has ever done. So, shall we get into the story? Now, I talk about how weird this story is. The pre-credit sequence is a couple getting attacked in a car because, they wanted to go into the fast lane. They stated that they lied about having 3 passengers. Something which, if you watch later on in the episode, doesn't make a lick of sense. But so the continuity errors already jarring. But the couple are for some reason based off the painting American Gothic. Why? I have no idea. And that is just the start. The first 10 seconds of this story is the couple from American Gothic getting murdered in a sci-fi camper van, in a sci-fi vehicle. Like, how weird. It's one of those things where you don't think it's weird when you're watching it, but when you think about it, like, wait, what? Why were they dressed up like what? But so yeah, the story then starts off into the credit scenes with the Doctor and Martha Jones discussing the one trip thing that the Doctor has stated in the previous stories, Smith and Jones and the Shakespeare Code. And the Doctor decides to widen the horizon. Instead of just having one trip, to make it like even, one trip in the past, the Shakespeare Code, and one trip into the future. And so he takes Martha Jones into the future, but not before Martha asks to take her to his planet. And the Doctor is quickly defensive about this. You can see him kind of getting quiet about it until Martha asks him how's his planet like, and he then goes into this memorable speech about, I think it's the one I stated at the start, of how Gallifrey looked and how the twin suns and the citadel, and the imagery, the written word in this, the dialogue by Russell T Davies, the performance by David Tennant. Like, this is Gridlock. This is the third episode in David Tennant's second series. Why are we getting his absolute best here? It doesn't make any sense. It's so weird. And the Doctor does not tell Martha that his home planet has been destroyed during the Time War. And we slowly get to understand why and the revelations of this and how this comes apart. Now, this story, I think what makes this story work really well is the dynamic between the Doctor and Martha in this adventure. This is one of the few occasions in which the dynamic of their relationship, specifically how Martha kind of feels like a rebound character after the departure of Rose, actually takes focus here and is actually part of their characterizations. They spend most of the episode apart, but it allows them to think about each other and to think about how they treat each other and how the other treats them. So there's some really nice dynamic between them. We'll get more into them when we talk about other scenes with them. But yeah, this story, in terms of them two, tackles this element. And I think that this story does a fantastic job at tackling it. It also helps that Martha is just such a likeable character. The Doctor takes Martha to New Earth, which we previously in New Earth. And Martha is kind of, not upset, but she kind of gets the feeling that, Martha is a rebound companion after, out of all the places the Doctor can go, anywhere in time and space, he takes her to the same planet as where he took Rose. In fact, just before leaving the TARDIS, the Doctor makes a joke about how it's New York is actually the 15th New York since the original, making it New York, which is actually something he said during New Earth. So nice little connection with that story. But there's a lot of stories get connected by New Earth in one way, shape, or form. It's really bizarre, but here this story actually, justifies it because it's a semi-sequel to that adventure. And the Doctor and Martha find themselves in the slums of the city, where these people seem to be selling emotions. They get these tags on their necks. One is like happiness. One is like joyful. You know, all of these. They basically selling drugs, as Martha puts it. But as far as we are concerned as an audience viewer, there's nothing really dangerous about these, apart from the fact, you know, that they have a similar effect to drugs in that they make you blank out the world. We get this absolutely gorgeous scene of this woman asking one of the women behind the counter for forgetfulness, to have the thing to make her forget her own parents, because her parents have gone to the motorway. And the Doctor and Martha, obviously just arriving, have no idea what is going on, and thinks it's a bit extreme that after her parents go onto the motorway, does she want to completely forget their existence. But before the Doctor can get any answers from her, she uses the forgetfulness and is suddenly happy and cheerful. And when the Doctor mentions, like, your parents were on the motorway, it's like, oh, that's nice for them. Please excuse me, as she walks off. It's a small scene. It's a scene which doesn't add up to anything in the plot, apart from, because it even like contradicts, because these are supposed to be selling emotions. Forgetfulness is not an emotion. Just letting you know, Russell T Davies. So it doesn't really like work in terms of the plot line, but it's a very powerful scene. It works really well out of context. Actually, in context as well, it kind of works, because it kind of shows that these people are slaves to this industry of these tags. Tags, which I like to add, you do take a vital role in the story at the end, but at the start they kind of just set up as just sort of this thing that exists within the narrative. Which will something about just existed in this narrative we'll get on in later on in the story. Martha is quickly kidnapped by this couple because they need 3 passengers, and they take their vehicle with Martha on it to the mysterious motorway. The Doctor tries to chase after her, but finds that there is this, the motorway is this massive dome thing with cars just completely like in a massive traffic jam, as the Doctor's basically breathing up fumes and gets rescued by a cat person, Brannigan, and he's played by the guy from no, it's not My Parents Are Aliens, My Family, the Irish. Oh, he's from Father Ted as well. You know who I'm on about. Fun fact, his character is actually based off his character Rats from what's that show called? Live and Let Live, Live and Let Live, or something like that. So that's really strange overall. Like, that character's in Doctor Who. Does that make that show canon to Doctor Who? Like, what? And the Doctor basically, Doctor and Martha both separately learn that there's this, in the motorway, there's this traffic jam, and people in the traffic jam get stuck there, and it seemingly has been going on for as more than 20 years. People have been stuck here, going from 5 miles in under 3 years. That is a plot of a Doctor Who story. How is this not the weirdest thing? There's also a cat person in a relationship with a human person, and she's had kids. She gave birth to actual kittens. How does that work? I mean, never know. And I probably don't want to know. And the Doctor gets to learn about this really like bizarre world and environment, but we get some really great moments. Brannigan, he gets up a call to his friends, this old lesbian couple, one of them being a car spotter who keeps an eye on the cars, as she basically helps the Doctor track down where Martha is. It turns out if you have 3 passengers, you can go into the fast lane, a lane down below, which allows a quicker passage. However, there have been rumours and speculations that there are monsters underneath there, monsters that can that are attacked and killed people in the motorway. Now, this is a weird plot, because that means within this narrative that a majority of those cars are either single or double. No kids, no third passengers. There's like tons of them. Only like a handful of them must have had 3 passengers to be willing to go down to the quick lane. That's just mental. Like, it's so bizarre. We then cut, we find, what's the name? The nurse from the New Earth, who was looking after the face of Bo, because this story shows the return of the face of Bo, concluding his story from A New Earth and building up from the teaser that his final words will be to a lone traveller. Fun fact, that his last line, his message to a traveller, was actually supposed to be in New Earth, but after Russell T Davies learned that Billy Piper wanted to leave, he saved it for the next series, which is how we got Gridlock. Now, again, it's so weird because, you know, the face of, they now treat the face of Bo as this character that's always had this ultimate mysterious past about him, and basically he tasks Naim to track down the Doctor in the carts, as she basically goes down cart to cart, acting like a pirate, breaking into cars, trying to track down the Doctor, as the Doctor, basically fed up with this and knows that Martha is down. I just realised I didn't talk about that scene I really enjoyed, in which the Doctor basically tries to call the police, but the police don't answer, and he tells Brannigan to go down because they got 3 passengers, and it's like, and the Doctor basically tries to make him realise how messed up this world is, as he gets contact with one of the women, the old woman, and he basically makes him realise there haven't been any police cars, any ambulances, anybody there. This place is all alone. Again, this is one of David Tennant's best performances. You can see the anger, the disdain in his face as this realisation to Brannigan comes out, before we get a lovely scene of people singing, showing that despite them being abandoned, they are found within one another. And yes, it's corny, yes, it's cheesy and silly, but I absolutely love it. Just the emotions that come from it, showing that, you know, despite the system basically failing, all these people still come together and can unite over this passionate song. So the Doctor goes down to try and find Martha from cabin to cabin, as Naim is following him. Down with Martha, she starts getting a friendly relationship with her captives. It turns out the gun that they used to hold was the gun they used to kidnap her was fake, and that the woman of the kidnappers is pregnant, and they need to find a job, and so they want to go to the into the motorway, into the fast lane. So they kidnap Martha, and they state that this motorway, this adventure, this journey will take them probably around about 7 years. They would risk 7 years. Mind you, there hasn't been any ambulances as far as we know. No police officers. That is just messed up. And for some reason, these characters, I just so memorize them. They're nothing too special, but they're nice, they're kind, and they just help the environment of the universe. Now, here's a fun fact for you, for all of you canon heads out there. The actor who plays the man, Milo, he later plays the 7th Doctor companion, Cridge, and according to the Doctor Who novels, in which he was based off, because he was originally from, the character was originally from the Virgin New Adventure novels, actually has a race of clones based after him. And one of them, and in one story, I don't know which story it is, this is something I got off Wikipedia, they state that one of them actually left to go to New Earth to start a family. So that means that this story features a clone of a companion from the novels of the 7th Doctor era. This story is weird. So anyway, they find out that on the fast lane, something dangerous is happening. You keep hearing noises, which the man proclaims it's just air vents, before getting in contact with another vehicle who seems to be taking heavy damage, and Martha's cart gets attacked by these things in the mist, and the Doctor gets down to basically the last layer of the slow lane and looks out down below and sees these things with 2 yellow eyes and giant clamper things coming out, as the Doctor uses an air vent system to release some of the gas, revealing the monster. Macra. The Macra! For those of you who don't know, the Macra are a 2nd Doctor monster from the Doctor Who story, the Macra Terror. In that story, they are a heavily prominent plotline. They are highly intelligent and have psychokinetic abilities, which can let them control people into believing that not only do they not exist, but also makes them basically want to work, makes them want to mine out dangerous gases in the soil so that the Macra can feed off. And here, they're just giant crabs living under the city. The Doctor proclaims at one point it's like that event was thousands of years ago. They must have lived down here and de-evolved, so now they're just beasts living at the bottom of the city. Now, the Macra appearing in this story is not only just so weird because it's not even like a massive deal. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that as a Doctor Who nerd I know what the Macra are, you wouldn't be none the wiser. This story treats them, makes them feel like they are an afterthought, that they are these are villains specifically for this story. But no, they're the Macra! The bloody Macra! Like, that is just so weird! The Macra returns, probably making them, at least at this point, has the biggest gap their appearances, with their first appearance being in 1968, I believe, and this story airing in 2007. So that's a massive gap right there. Really strange, really bizarre. And what makes this so bizarre, so strange, so odd? Do the Macra have a big role in the story, in the narrative? No, they do not. They appear as a threat to Martha and the cart underneath in the fast lane. But they're not in any way the cause of the problem. They are no way part of the solution to the problem. They just sort of appear. It's so strange. I don't understand it. Anyway, the Doctor gets contacted with Name, and she teleports the Doctor to where the Face of Bo is. At the capital of the city, and the Doctor's originally is like, right, take me there, I need to find somebody in charge and put an end to all this. But she reveals, obviously, that they are there, and when she turns on the lights, the Doctor and Name basically see a bunch of dead bodies. The Doctor, Name, proclaims that there was a new emotion, a new chemical called bliss, which had a virus in it, which made it not only addictive, but highly deadly. And this disease basically went airborne, and it turns out that the lower levels, the traffic jam, shall we say, was caused after the Face of Bo used up his energies to close the citadel, but doesn't have enough energy, enough power sources, enough techno information to reopen them, trapping everybody there. It turns out he didn't really trap them, he saved them from this bliss. But everything is clean now, back in the real world, and so quarantine can close. However, the automatic quarantine is for 100 years. So the Doctor puts out all his technobabble skills to work. And you're probably thinking, Adam, I could see why you personally would enjoy this story, but it still does sound like a pretty average Doctor Who story. It sounds like a Doctor Who story in terms of quality, narratively wise, it's still really strange, but quality wise it might sound a bit mundane at this point. Well, I'm here to tell you that Gridlock has one of the best finales in the revived series. I love the endings to this story. Basically, the Doctor tries to get all of his technology to work so that it can open the doors, and the Face of Bo gives his last life force to producing enough power to help the Doctor open the shutters. As then, when the shutters are all open, he commands everybody communicating to him to just head straight up to the sky, as our characters that we've met throughout this story see the sun, the sunlight, for the first time since they've started this journey, and the emotions, the editing, the acting on their faces, just, I must be honest, I got a little bit teared up inside when I saw that moment. But that's not all. That's a perfect ending over there. However, the Face of Bo starts dying and breaks out of his casing, as Martha gets reunited with the Doctor at the end of the story, after the Doctor makes a discussion with another character in a cab, stating it's like, Martha must be really important to you, as the Doctor's like, I don't know, I was too busy showing off, and I lied to her. I lied to her because I liked it, but now I gotta face that. Showing that their relationship in this story, that that connectedness. Sure, it's basically the Doctor going on a rescue mission to save his companion, but Martha also gets to learn in the cabin that she basically ran away with a stranger. She put all of her faith in this man who's taken her to the far ends of the timeline, and if she dies now, her family will never know. And that's pretty messed up. And so Martha and the Doctor basically comforting the face of Bo at his death. And what I really love about this scene is that, yes, it's a play into that story arc, the storyline, you know, of the face of Bo's last words. But it works perfectly in this narrative because it leads into a scene which deals with the ideas, the emotional capabilities of our characters in this story. This is a revelation in a story arc that's important to the story we're telling now. That is how you do that. Thank you, Russell T Davies. Russell T Davies is usually very good at doing story arcs, and this is one example. As it's basically this sad moment, and they basically do mention it's like he'll speak his final words, his secret to a traveller, and the face of Bo is like, doesn't really confirm it, but he basically tells the Doctors like, we are both the last of our kind, and one day we will join our people. But Doctor, remember, you are not alone. And dies. His last line, his last message to the Doctor is, you are not alone. David Tennant's face in that scene, can I just say it? Fantastic performance. And like I said, this obviously leads into the story arc, into the storyline, and we as a viewing audience, it's like, what does he mean? Is he not the last? Are there other Time Lords that have survived during the Time War? Are there other Daleks? Are there other faces of Bows? Are there other lonely creatures? What does he mean? But it still plays well here, because that's not the final scene. The final scene is actually probably one of the most iconic scenes in Doctor Who history. And again, it's so weird how this story, which is for the most part very mundane in terms of quality, suddenly gets like one of the best scenes in the revived series by far. The Doctor and Martha basically headed to the TARDIS, and the Doctor's just like, come on, let's go. But Martha's like, no, I'm sitting here until you tell me everything, until you tell me what it is, because you're not talking to me, you're not seeing me eye to eye, you just sort of expect me to follow you. But no, not anymore. You're going to tell me what I want to know. What did the face of Bo mean by you are not alone? Because at one point Martha asks the Doctor, it's like, is it me? Is it because I'm with you? Is that what they meant? But the Doctor's like, no, sorry. But he's kind of like blanks her out. He's kind of like smiling. He kind of like doesn't realise how much emotional damage this has done to Martha. And so Martha sits down, crossed at the Doctor, as the Doctor reveals that he lied to her. He lied to her because he can imagine that his people were still out there. But you see, he's not the Time Lord. Not just a Time Lord. He's the last of the Time Lords. And that he believes that's what the face of Bo means. However, he also states that, the Doctor states it's like, the face of Bo is wrong. There is no one else. And like this scene leads into the Doctor basically revealing about the Time War to Martha. This is Martha's moment of learning about the Time War, as the Doctor sits down and tells Martha about how amazing his city was and how much he misses it. How during this one moment in his life, Everyone died, all of his friends, all of his family, which just puts to mind, is Susan dead? Susan must be dead. If the doctor, at least the doctor believes Susan is dead during the events of the Time War. Everyone is gone. And despite that, that speech doesn't actually end, it kind of like fades into the credits. Those moments, that bit when you see David Tennant sitting down and his face is just full of pain, but also of nostalgia for the good old days. Just, you know, it's one of those most iconic scenes. It's one of those scenes where when fans make fan trailers of the 10th Doctor era, this always makes it. It's that bit where he goes, "There was a war." The gravity in his voice is just so powerful, ending this story on probably one of the best notes in the entire series. So there you go, that's Gridlock. Despite it being a very lighter story compared to most adventures in terms of narrative, I personally really enjoy this story. However, I will state, if you are someone who didn't like this story or just thought it was mundane and dull, that's perfectly fine. You're entitled to your opinion. But personally, the more I watch it, the more I fall in love with it. And I know it's an unpopular story. I know that a lot of people don't like the story. But for me, personally, I will watch Gridlock any day of the week. It's fun. Something always puts a grin on my face. It's also incredibly weird. There's certain scenes are just like, what? Creative, like the American Gothic at the start. Brannigan being based off the rats from that show, which I think also starred John Barrowman, if I remember correctly. The fact that the bloody macro return, and their return is completely meaningless, is hilariously bizarre. But the story deals with Martha and the Doctor's relationship with each other, and finally confronts some of the emotional baggage from the previous two episodes, making the story a well worth entry into the series. So there you go, that's Gridlock. So join me next time when the Torchwood team have found out that one of them has been keeping a deep, dark secret revolving around the Battle of Canary Wharf. So join me next time for Cyber Woman. And I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra!